Hello again, my friends, and you are my friends, and welcome to your ITFC live fan match reaction. It is finished MK Dons 0, Ipswich Town 1. We have one on the road, and I'm really looking forward to hearing what you're going to say this evening. The faithful of Ipswich Town Football Club. It's your chance to have your say in your own words, unfiltered, totally live. How are you feeling now? I'll bring the league table up, but it's down to 5 points. A bit more confident. We've got Phil Blundell in the chat. Love to see that, Phil. He says, good win. 3 clean sheets on the bounce. 3 points for the win and 3 points gained on Plymouth. Hashtag happy days. There are 2 ways you can get involved this evening. Via the live chat, as Phil has done there. I can see Phil waiting to come on as well. And of course, you can click the link to get involved and have your say. We've got Richard Chandler joining us at some point. We've got Coxey, Norman Greenwald. If we consider 5, could you imagine the outrage on here? Plymouth have done it twice this season. Rob, how did Broadhead miss that open goal second half? Glenn Kerr should have scored more, but really solid performance. Picked the Saints in the game while we are winning. Chris Boyd, good result. We seem to play much more through the middle today. Super Sam's strike was quality. Wes Burns, was Burns on the pitch. Very quiet. Hurst Broadhead huffed and puffed with no end result. 10 points to 5 in 2 games, says Hups. So yeah, get involved. Your moment of the game, your player of the game. Who stood out, who didn't stand out? Let me know all of that. And of course, are you feeling confident now? The league table looks like this evening, my friend. We'll try and make that a little bit bigger. There we go. That should be it. We are currently sitting in 3rd, 1 point above Bolton, but a game in hand on Bolton. Barnsley back in 5th on 59. But the gap has been closed a little bit to 2nd. Plymouth on 68. 5 points now between us and them. That's probably who we're targeting. Let's be fair. So how are you feeling now? A bit more confident? I know it was, at times a little bit doom and gloom, a little bit. It's not as good as it could be, not as rosy in the garden. How are we feeling this evening now? That is your league table. Coxey, I'll bring you in first and foremost. How are you, my friend? Are you well?
I'm cool. Thank you, Governor. Yes, thank you.
Good man. Town have sunk MK Dons 1-0. What are your thoughts on the games? We sit here now at 5:05.
What, on today's game? Well, it's what we've been lacking most of the season. It wasn't pretty. It was a professional performance. I mean, other than one sort of bit in the first half, I think there's about 10 or 15 minutes where NK Doms had about 5 shots in about 10 seconds, and Christian Walton pull off a couple of point blank saves. But I don't think they really troubled. You can see why they're down the bottom, and it was a no frills professional performance from Town today, and dare we start dreaming of what we thought was going to second place. Still a long way to go, but a little bit more optimism tonight, I believe.
Yes, you're more optimistic. You obviously mentioned that jump to second. 5 points now. Are you still in the camp of it's going to be the playoffs, or do you think actually Plymouth may be a wobble today? Let's see where it goes.
I'm still in the camp that it will be playoffs for us, but you've got to sort of maybe that they've lost 2 on the bounce now. Hopefully, this will be them sort of assigned. They're now going to have their blip and they're going to sink, and we need to take about that. It was just as well that we got the 1-0 win today, because it is a perfect opportunity for us with them losing again. Barnsley won again, Bolton won. Fair enough, Barnsley beat Derby today, but we need to. It's 2 wins in a row, and I believe what Cruncher said last night is if we can get the the second win, it'll be 2 in a row for us. So we'll take it.
Dave Simpson thought MK would score when we kept missing. Joe Curry can say they're bottom of the league, but they was up for it today. Longo done well when he came on, says Rob Holmes. €5 from David, appreciate that. I'll bring Richard Chandler in just a momento. Coxey, before we sort of bring Chandler on, I will keep you on the screen. Who stood out for you today? Who was one player that was sort of impressive for you from a Town shirt? And thank you, David, for the €5, by the way. I really appreciate that. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, David. For me, it was the captain's performance today by Morsey. He made the goal. He scored the goal. He capitalised. It was a great reading of the game by him. he took the ball, put it forward, and he finished it absolutely superbly. So Morsey for me today.
Morsey for you. It's a great goal, to be fair, because he's read the play, intercepted it, and then you got the feeling he didn't quite want to shoot, but had no other options. But when he unleashed it, finally, it wasn't a daisy cutter, Coxie. And he's,
it wasn't. It was a lovely finish. The goalkeeper no chance. Yeah, fantastic.
Well and truly. And then happened in the second half as well, where you felt it was travelling.
Yeah.
I think it was a good save. I think, if I'm remembering in the end. So
from the free kick, which they switched off from and let Morsey sort of have about 3 or 4 paces. About 2 or 3 paces forward. But it was a good save. He could have quite easily have had his second one there and bagged that brace. Yeah.
I just thought he had one of his better games today in a long time. Dude.
There's been a bit of a criticism around captain. A lot of it was obviously there's a lot more on the captain, it was a captain's performance today.
Yeah,
but we can't win pretty every week, and it was like I said, no feels professional. We got over the line. We got the 3 points. We got 2 wins in a row now. Let's keep building. Let's keep that momentum going.
Very true. SB, Maz looked class, holds the ball up well, and good eye for a pass. Burns, pass selection, quite poor today. Maybe time to mix it up with Jackson. Nick Will, longer will help to mix up the type of attacking options like Morsey and Broadhead can carry the ball. Mike D thought longer come on and made a difference in the second half. Chris Boyd, unbeaten in 6, 3 wins, 3 draws. Maybe we are capable of a run. Richard Chandler, Town closing the gap to 5 points. Let's start with that one. How are you feeling tonight? 5 points. Is it back on?
It is back on. I said about 2 or 3 weeks ago that Plymouth would start to falter, didn't I? And I think they've picked up 1 point since.
Mm-hmm. Yes, they have. Yeah.
And that gap's come from 10 to 5, like we said earlier in the chat. You look at our run of games we've got coming up. We've got Burton at home and Accrington at home, next 2 up, haven't we?
Mm-hmm.
Perfect.
You're confident of those 2, are you?
Yeah, I'm very confident. I think Milton Keynes today weren't great, but they're better than both Burton and Accrington.
No, fair point. Yeah, so you've obviously had this bet with Rich in terms of goal scorers. Sam Morsey got himself on the goal sheet today. Coxey's really sort of impressed by his performance. How did you see the captain's role today? Because it was good.
I thought he was back to his best, to be honest. I think when he turns and attacks with the ball, he looks like he can beat anyone. And he controlled the middle of the park in the first half. And then when Luongo came on in the second, 2 of them just controlled it. Maximo Luongo looked really good.
Sorry.
You're right there, Martin.
Wrong button. Oh. Sorry. Carry on, Richard. Sorry.
I thought Luongo looked really good. I think we just look like we've got players all over the park now. In my opinion, the strongest 11 started the game again, which is 2 games on the trot.
Yeah, there was lots of talk about that on last night's show. Will it be unchanged? Will it be this? Will it be that? There's been a lot of talk over the last couple of weeks, really, of that, Rich. Were you surprised to see it unchanged? Are you happy? Are you hoping this is the turning point for not just the football club, but for McKenna maybe, and keeping the unchanged lineup, keeping it the consistency?
I think I know he's been getting criticised for too many changes, but I don't think it's because he's wanted to necessarily. You look at that whole period earlier in the season when there was changes all the time, we had a lot of injuries, so he had no choice. And then he kind of has had no choice since he brought the new guys, because they've got to get back up. They've got to get up to match fitness, haven't they?
Yeah.
And I think before he bought them and before Harness got injured, we tried to keep the same team. When Harness was on fire, we tried to keep the same 11 for a few games then, but then a couple of injuries spurred.
Yeah, true. I know. Yes, on Friday's show we were talking about Broadhead. Will he get run of games and everything? But yeah, I don't know. I hope it's the turning point for him, Rich. I really do, because this is the time when you start to play yourself into form, and maybe as Chris said in the chat earlier, Rich, 5 unbeaten, 3 draws, 2 wins. This is the potentially start of the run that we're going to need.
And do we look like any team's going to beat us, really, realistically, in any game?
Well, I wrote that down today, actually. Anxiety. because I had anxiety at 1-0. I'm not going to lie. I felt this was going to end in a 1-1 draw. A classic Town
The only
could have been.
The only time I felt anxious was in like the 90th minute.
Yeah.
That was the only time I was like, oh, it'll be just our luck for that to come off the wall and go in the top corner or something.
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah, and I agree. And I was thinking, and obviously we were such a let-off Coxey in the first half with obviously Christian Walton's 2 fantastic saves. Jonathan Lecker at the back post, not really hammering it as he probably should have done at Wolfenden and taking Wolfie and the ball in the net with it. We got lucky there because, 10 minutes or so later, we're 1-0 up.
Yeah, a sliding door. We started off well, but they were they were the better team at that time, and that was sort of the turning point. And we wasn't playing that well, but then we went ahead, and that's what many times Ipswich Town haven't done that, and they did it today. Let's give them credit.
How did you see Hurst's performance, Rich? Because obviously Ladapo is the man with the goals on the stat sheet, but Hurst did the line today. How did you see it?
I think it's difficult because I think Hurst does an awful lot of good things, and same as I thought Ladapo did a lot of good things before he started scoring, and he was getting all the criticism from the fans. He did an awful lot of holding the ball up. I think Hurst is a lot better at the pressing. He's a lot more mobile and a lot quicker than Ladapo. But I've got no issue with it, whichever one of the two he picks, to be honest. I think they both do the job that one of them do. I did think we almost scored when you had the old big number 9 napping it down for the small number 10 when he nodded it down for Chaplin. I thought we were going to score probably a goal from the 80s then.
He has played in more centrally, or appears closer to Hurst since Hurst arrived, Rich Chaplin. I've been noticing the patterns of where Chaplin's picking up the pockets of space has been a lot closer than perhaps he was in the earlier part of the campaign.
I think so, and I think part of that is that we're not so heavily reliant on the right side as we were in the past. Because in the past, we used to have to push everything through JD and Chaplin on the right and Burns on the right. And now we've got the more options. I think it's allowing Chaplin to play that much more kind of almost like the second striker.
How did you see Chaplin's performance very quickly before I ask you around the match?
I think Chaplin's always an 8, and I think he was probably a low 8 today. I think he had a decent game. I think he could have scored. I think it's difficult. I think we've got so used to him scoring, but he gets goals and doubles, doesn't he? So I wouldn't put it past him to go and score 2 against Burton on Saturday.
Yeah, I agree. And you man of the match?
My man of the match, the same as Coxey's. Morsey, I thought, everything was controlled by him today.
Okay, perfect.
Could have scored a second because that was a great save, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I fully agree. And then obviously the rebound, we didn't quite fall for us, and sometimes that's football. And that's when you start to think, oh no, is it going to be one of those situations? Rich, as always, a pleasure. Thank you for jumping on with me. I hope to speak football with you again soon.
Speak to you soon.
Good man. I've got the legend that is Lewis Robinson, who I have got a lovely message to read and respond to. Lewis, I've not forgotten you. Much love to you and your family. It says, giving ourselves a massive opportunity to close it further with 2 winnable home games. Auto's still a possibility. Just got to keep the consistent lineup and putting in the pressure on Plymouth. Great comment. Love that. And I will get back to you. Just, life's getting in the way. Rob Holmes. Thought Burns was off it today, in my opinion. Yeah, let's talk about Phil Blundell. I've got a couple of players I want to highlight, and then we'll get Phil's thoughts and get into nitty-gritties with the legend that is Phil Blundell. Coxey, let's start there then with Wes Burns. Rob Holmes' comment, thought Burns was off it today. What was your opinion on the Welsh Wizard?
I think, to be honest, Sir Les has been off it for a few weeks now. Perhaps he needs a bit of a run on the subs bench. And
okay.
Whether it means our boy Kagan getting his chance for a few weeks might not be a bad idea. I think, does he need a rest, or is this just a bit of a chance for him that he needs that time out? I don't know, but he's not been on it the last few weeks for me. After trouble is last season he was the best player, and this season more players have been, on it more. So no, he needs probably maybe needs a rest from me. Yeah,
certainly a position I'd be looking at in the summer to push him in. Bringing in some really top quality competition that was going to push him, or maybe edge him out, or just however it might be in football. It's a squad game, but yeah, I think because at the moment you've got Wes, then you kind of got Caden Jackson, and I like Caden Jackson. I've been Caden Jackson's biggest supporter for the last, this season probably, but I just feel like when Wes isn't on it, and every player is not on it from time to time, have you got that reserve option to come off the bench or start next week if you want to give him the rest as you're suggesting there? But I just felt a couple of times, particularly in the first half, don't know about you, Cox, his quality on the ball wasn't necessarily there. A few times the crosses weren't what they should have been, or or whatever it might have been. It just wasn't quite there for him today.
Yeah, after trouble is, with last season, we know his yardstick. We know what he's capable of, and it's consistent. What he's capable of consistently, and sadly today, that again, it wasn't quite there again. So, yeah.
George Hurst. I said it 2 weeks ago. I say it again today. Every time I see him play, I feel like I'm watching Alan Lee. It just the way he carries himself, the way he moves, his strength, his resilience, his work rate. And again today, for me, didn't get the goal. And I always talk about impactful stats. Does he get those? Is he getting those? When I talk about Sonny Aluko and other players like that. But for me, won't necessarily show up on the stat sheet as an impactful stat, goal or assist or whatever. But he's strong, he's resilient, and he bullies centre halves. And it's almost a joy to watch it in your own colours.
It is. A couple of times for me, thought, oh, bloody hell, we've actually got a player up front who can win headers. Richard Chandler's already said about the moment when it was very much an 80s or 90s goal, a big striker actually knocking it down for a small striker, but the defender just got there, just in front of Chaplin. But I would have been waxing lyrical about that goal if that would have gone in. But sadly,
not just getting there first, though. It's the subtle, as Mick McCarthy used to call it, the dark arts. The arm in the back, the know when to nudge, the know when to fall, the know when to buy a free kick or whatever it might be. It's a professional performance from a player that is used to leading along on his own. It looks like.
Yeah, you got to know when to hold them and know when to fold them. Yeah,
got to know when. Yeah, give it and go. Okay, a couple of comments coming in. We've got Georgie Boy thought Luongo was class. Humphreys great for the future, but might be time to get Luongo bedded into 11. What are your thoughts on this before we bring in the legend that is PB? Because I feel sorry for Humphreys because it's a different kind of game when Massimo comes on. He's coming on to almost use his experience, use his two-touch, calm it, kill it, and effectively put his foot on the throat of the game. And I think he does that really well. But when Humphreys is in there from the start, it's a different kettle of fish. It's a different game. It's a different different tempo, sorry. Everything's different about the game. So I struggle to sort of compare the two. But where are you on what George and others are saying in the comments there about Massimo and Humphreys?
Yeah, Humphreys and Luongo are two completely different types of midfield players. Luongo came on, and he, as we saw last week, it's a different. You do see the different in Morsey as well. He then doesn't have to sort of be that enforcer because, to quote what you just said, he can put his sort of foot on the ball or the foot on the throat of the game and sort of give the others a bit. It's two completely different players. We were a slightly better side with Luongo in it, but other days you perhaps need the bit more flair from Humphreys, and today it wasn't needed, and you needed that more hardened player, and that's what you got in Luongo. Yeah,
I thought Humphreys did really well though in the first 50, 60 minutes, however long he was on the field for in total. I thought he did well. A couple of moments he could have maybe done a little bit of better pass selection, but he's young, he's learning, developing, and
absolutely
he's going to be certainly one for the future. Chris Boyce looks more stable with Morsey and Luongo in there, but I don't know if you want stable at 0-0, Cox. That's what I'm saying. I don't know if you at 0-0, particularly away from home or even at home to Burton and co. Do you need stable? Do you want stable? Do you want the dynamics, the young, enthusiastic ball forward? Do you know what I mean with that? Do you know?
Yeah.
Is it too handbrakey?
At 0-0, it is definitely, yeah, because you want to show something of a bit more going forward, and yeah, Humphreys offers more, that perhaps that little edge of flair there, what the Wongo's got, and yeah, but if you as Kieran obviously decided today 1-0, we'll keep that. If we can get any more, we can, but yeah, we were able to do that more with Luongo in there.
Always a risk, doing it 1-0. It's that dangerous scoreline. Before we go any further,
it's Ipswich Town, Governor. Like you said, even if it's 1-0, even 2-0 going into added on time, you think, this should still end up a draw, but it didn't. It didn't.
Spot on. Right, before we go any further, come and Talking Town 5th stand today. Hit the join button on YouTube, like our friend Craig at Portsmouth and Lewis have done. That's why they've got lovely green bolded names and a little S next to it. Hit the join button, 2 tiers to choose, or go to kofi, such as the Fisherman has done so, and become a Talking Town 5th stander through there. You set it up, you set the amount, I believe. If not, it's £5, and you can cancel it at any point. Second piece of business, it's a Saturday night. I want to know what takeaway you're having this evening, and if it's Chinese, what's your go-to Chinese dish? Because I have had it on good authority from Mrs. L that I am going to get a Chinese meal this evening. So I want to know what I need to order, because the last time I had a Chinese was probably, I don't know, last year sometime. Last year for sure. Normally I'm a fish and chips kind of guy. So let me know what I should be getting. Before we bring in Phil, we've got Lewis. Really pleased with Luongo back fit. Never had concerns about ability, just his durability. As Coxie said, certain games suit certain players, and Humphreys we needed in the next 2. Rob, Luongo reporting for these massive away games at Bolton, Barnsley, Derby, and Posh. Norman, with Humphreys in the midfield, it restricts more, so it's like play with 1.5 midfielders. Sweet or savoury, Gov? What, for pancakes? Sweet. I don't know. I mean, I'll have anything. Just give me some creative ideas. Mike D. Crispy shredded beef. Well, duck pancakes for sure, minus the pancakes, because duck is a keto-friendly meat. But not that I'm on the keto, obviously, because I had 2 Twixes at lunchtime. But shh. Saturdays don't count. Oh, duck chow mein. I do like a good chow. Sorry, Phil. I'll get you in a minute. Mike the Fishman. Crispy chicken Peking style with egg fried rice. I'm writing that down. I'm starting that comment. Right, Phil, welcome in. How are you, my friend?
Good, thanks.
Andy says, can anyone explain how Broadhead missed that tap in? Phil.
I don't know because I didn't see it.
All right, don't worry about it. Did you listen on the radio?
Yes, I listened to it on the radio, but yeah, I mean, they were saying about it, during the last stage of second half. If he's missed a sitter, then for a player of his caliber at this level, he really shouldn't be missing those. I want to quickly mention about Wednesday night. I enjoyed Wednesday night. Okay, even though we didn't get the result that the boys wanted, that referee spoiled things, I think, in the first half. And I think Town, they played so well with 10 men for more than an hour of that game. And I feel that, when they went 2-1 up with 20 or so minutes to go, I thought, with the way that they were playing, I thought they were going to hang on, but they didn't. And, I just came away from that thinking that the referee, he dished out 4 or 5 yellow cards for the Town players. And I just thought that really he was lightning quick on that red card. He just shot the red card out straight away. And I'm thinking he didn't give himself time. The player was a good 35, almost 40 yards from our Town goal. And there was another Town defender, alongside him that could have closed the gap, but he felt that was a clear and obvious goal scoring opportunity, and he sent him off for it, which everyone was disappointed about it. But hey ho. But anyway, the game this afternoon, I'll be quick. I think it's good to see Sam Mawson get a goal, because he's come under some criticism recently in recent weeks about maybe his lack of leadership on the field and managing game time towards the end. That's going to give him a world of confidence going into the next couple of games. And I'm glad that he's avoided that 10th booking, because, he won't be suspended now for the Burton and Accrington games, which I think now we'll get 6 points from. And I think I can actually now see Plymouth slipping up even further in the next couple of weeks. I know they've got their date at Wembley coming up in the Papa John's, but I think that every Town fan this evening is going to feel so much better about themselves, because a couple of weeks ago it was looking like those two at the top were going to be pulling away with double-digit points, and I'm just really happy to see that table now. It's made me feel so much better this afternoon. I was anxious about that free kick towards the end. I thought that it sounded like sod's law that MK would grab that equaliser, but thankfully they didn't. And the boys put in a somewhat professional display. On the issue of Burns, I said this 2-3 weeks ago, that I felt that Burns could get more game time over Burns. I think obviously Jackson is a much more natural wide player, and I think that I would hope that McKenna rotates between Burns and Jackson. I just think Jackson now, could do with 1 or 2 starts. I think that if he just sort of just gave Burns something to think about, that would be good, I think, because when Jackson has played in that wide right hand side berth, for me, when I've seen him play at Port, he's always played well. He's always given it his all. He always works hard for the team, and I think that Jackson is due some more game time, I think, from McKenna.
That said, though, Phil, fans have been calling for more consistency, more settled lineups. Is that not tinkering for tinkering's sake? Is it not Town now time, unless you've got an injury for next week, that again, this 11 that played last week, that played today, 2 wins on the bounce, goes again next week on the 3rd on the trot?
I wouldn't be surprised if McKenna sticks with the same 11 again for the Burton game, but to make 3 or 4 changes every week I think it's too much. I mean, I think Mr. Burley during his reign, he wouldn't be afraid of making 1 or 2 changes, but 3 or 4 just seems to be a bit much. I think McKenna's problem now is the fact that we've got such a big squad of players that there may be an aspect where that he's trying to keep all the lads fit and and strong for whenever they're needed off the bench, or if you do get 1 or 2 injuries, like Lee Evans now is out of the picture for the moment. But I think Luongo's performance this afternoon was really encouraging to hear. I was listening to it on the radio, and it sounds really to me that right now with the players we've got, whoever gets injured, whatever changes he's forced to make, it probably won't make too much of a difference for me. So, I'm looking forward to the next 2 games. I think we'll get 6 points from the next 6. And I think Plymouth, I can see them slipping up again in the next week or 2. And I think we'll close the gap even further, hopefully.
Good man. Phil, Andy Barrow wants to know, why don't you get a VPN? He's just back from Frankfurt.
I did have VPN. Okay, right. I've never had a VPN before. Now, unfortunately for me, like this afternoon, being a Town supporter now for more than 30 years, I've seen,
poor sod.
I've seen a huge amount of football Saturday, and as you know, I was 8 years as a referee. So I've had a huge amount of Saturday afternoon football in my life. And this afternoon, I've recently been involved in other kind of activities, and this one I've got going is actually quite enjoyable. When you go to the football, you kind of sat there for 2 hours, not really talking to anyone. And I know Saturdays is the one day where most people don't work. It's their free day, and I would say I'll certainly be at the Accrington game. The Burton game, I don't know yet, but I'm just enjoying myself, and that's that Wednesday evening one. If you want me to do further commentary, maybe an away game.
It was very enjoyable, Phil.
I wouldn't mind doing that. I would say it gives me something to do, especially during midweek.
Phil?
I'm in between jobs at the moment right now, so to give myself something to do would be quite.
You've always got a place here at Talking Town. Yeah. Phil, just tell me your ideal Saturday night before I let you go. What is your ideal Saturday night? Is it a Chinese, an Indian, a fish and chips, kebab? Is it a homemade meal? Because Dave is cooking shepherd's pie, so you fancy that? Everyone round Dave's house for a shepherd's pie.
Chinese, and I did actually have a takeaway this lunchtime. I had a rice dish with a spicy chicken curry on top, which was really quite nice. But usually, if I'm getting a Chinese, I'll either go for something like Cantonese duck, which is, I think, slices of roast duck with things like pineapple and vegetables and bean sprouts and mushrooms. That's really quite nice. when it's stir fried. Lovely dish. A bit of egg fried rice, or my favourite usually is a Cantonese rice dish called vermicelli. Don't know whether you've had it.
Yeah. I've heard of that.
It's a thin Cantonese in a mild, spicy sort of, I don't know, paste or sauce mixed in with loads of vegetables. So you've got onions, bean sprouts, carrots, prawns. You get prawns in it too, and you get little slivers of pepper, which is really hot. So it's actually quite a spicy dish to have. So you might want to have a glass of milk with it. Or
not big on spice, I have to be brutally honest. But yeah,
it's my favourite Chinese dish, and I usually have that on a Sunday night, if I'm being honest. But earlier this afternoon, I had a nice spicy Thai curry rice dish instead.
I've had pad Thai, never vermicelli, but I've certainly written it down on a bit of paper. You never know. Keep your eyes out on the Discord. I'll speak to you later, Phil. Look after yourself.
Take care. Cheers.
All the best. Mike D, new channel, Talking Takeaways. Hey, me and takeaways, we're like that. We are best mates. Love a good takeaway. Love it. How about you, Cox? Are you a takeaway king?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. You don't get my sort of physique without.
No, you don't get my sort of physique without dodging the old takeaway.
Virtual high five. Anyway, back to the chat. Mike D's going to go Thai tonight. I was thinking about going Thai tonight, and then Mrs. L said she doesn't like Thai food. I just thought more for me, to be fair, but there we go. Anyway, man of the match then, Coxie. You said Sam Morsey. I'm going to tell you my man of the match, Christian Walton. Kept us in the game at 0-0. Without it, you don't go on and win. Yes, of course, you need Sam Morsey to score his goal, but without those vital moments, this isn't a 3-point win. This is something else for me. So for me, it's Christian Walton. How did you see his performance? Because a couple of times even, 18-yard box patrolling. I see him patrolling. Love it. Love a bit of that. Commanding the area, the full area. Not often you see something like that. How did you see his performance?
Yeah, I think that's a fair shout from you. It's before, like I said, that the two sort of saves, point blank with that sort of first 15 minutes there, and they said they really should have scored. They didn't from one of the earlier chances, but they didn't have a lot to do really in the game. But that's what you want from the keeper, to still be, awake. And he said, patrolling that 18-yard box, patrolling the penalty area, should we say? Yeah, he was doing that today.
He was doing it very well. Norman Guerrero is Walton back to his best. Well, we shall have to see. Really, there's only one performance. Let's give him next week. 2-touch Walton, as Matt likes to call him. We're back tomorrow, 1:30, Talking Town, the flagship podcast. We'll look at the interview that was Holland McKenna and Ashton. Sorry, I forgot. You forgot the main man himself. And then we'll also discuss the rest of today. Plymouth will fall away. Plymouth fell away last season, and their nerve might go. Also, a cup run against Bolton to worry about. Love that. Chandler, I think it's a really decent win. After the goal, there was only one winner. 3 clean sheets. Sorry, 3. You're right. You're absolutely right. 3 clean sheets. I do apologise, Norman. Is Christian Walton back to his best then, Coxie? 1-word answer, yes or no? That's not 1 word, that's 2 words.
Yes.
And a noise. Well, it's 1 word and a noise. Yes, there we go. We're back tomorrow, 1:30. Thank you for watching. Hit the like button, subscribe, and become a Talking Town 5th fan today. Enjoy your Saturday night. I've got some lovely suggestions in the chat box. Dave Simpson, salt and chili squid, seaweed, how special curry, how special rice, or chow mein. I say or, Dave. No such thing as an or, my friend. How special rice and a chow mein. Go big or go home. Town back on the rise. Is it over yet? Time will tell.
Come on.